The time has come. The deadline is only a mere hours away. It's time to find out if we save the school or not.
Which I realized really early that I was very wrong.
Tisk tisk.
Man, I did my best.
Sometimes you're on the ball, sometimes you're not. Not you in general, just saying people.
Wow.
People can be on the ball, sometimes they're not.
I I think that my reasoning was sound, but
Right.
um they just went with a different option than I
That's
thought would
true.
happen.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Jared and I Want to Love Life Sunshine. It is episode number 20? 20? 20.
I think yeah, 20.
20. I'm Jared, that's Anladium,
Hello.
and we're here to talk to you about Season 2, Episode number 7. It's called The Time Left, because there's not a lot of time left.
Correct.
If you will remember back to some previous episodes that we have done, I mentioned early on that the saving the school aspect of this series was something the original series also did.
Yep.
And that the outcome of that was that they saved the school.
Yep.
Going into this season, I asked you I asked you to predict what happens with the two main plots that are going into season 2, and that is, do they save the school? Do they win Love Live?
And my reasoning was that they would save the school, but they would not win Love Live because they are like really small town and like they weren't doing this for very long. So I thought that it was reasonable that it could happen. And then like with the goal of 100 applications, like all right, they can do this. They can do it. And then like when this episode started, I'm like, oh, they didn't do it. Like I knew as soon as the episode started, stuff like started going into it. I'm like, no, they didn't save the school. They didn't do it. I'm wrong. I was wrong. So while I still stand by I had sound logic, they threw me a curveball here.
They did. There was one thing I also mentioned was that they do this story differently in this series than they do in the first series.
Mm-hmm.
Which should have been like, that's basically almost a spoiler in and of itself.
Well, I didn't know that they were necessarily talking about like that. I thought you were just talking about how they do things.
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
Plot wise. I didn't think it meant like the actual plot of like these type scenarios.
So yeah, basically we start this episode off with Aqua figuring out, do they pass the regionals or not? And they're on stage with all the other groups, and they find out they passed regionals in first place.
Yeah.
They are on their way to nationals. But they also realize that this is also the day that was given as the deadline for the application page, and if they don't get 100 new signups by the end of the night, that is it. They also realize like once they're leaving the arena over they performed, like their video's doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
So they think like, okay, well, if our video's doing really well, maybe that's going to coincide with us getting some new members and applicants, and it'll be all okay.
They basically thought like, oh, this is perfect timing. We did well. We got through it. There's a ton of views. Everything will be all right.
Yeah, our momentum is on our side.
Yes.
They get back to the school and they realize that things aren't necessarily going that great. Like, they talk to Mari like before they go to the school, and they're like, well, how's the applicants doing? And Mari's like, oh, maybe my phone just froze and like it's just not doing so great. We should probably go back to school and I'll be able to check it on the computer, and that'll be fine. So they go back there, and then like they're like, oh, it's still not to 100. So Mari goes out, and this is like 8:00 in the evening, I believe. So they're like, by this point they have like 4 hours left. Mari's able to call her dad and is like, hey, can we get an extension? And her dad's like, okay, you guys have till 5 a.m. your time, and if you don't have 100 entries by then, the website will shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So that is their new goal. So around this time, they have about like 9 hours left. to figure everything out. Basically, once they get the news of like the 5 a.m. new extension, Chica's like, all right, I'm gonna go out to the station and be like, hey, support our school. Go on the internet and tell everyone to support our school. Let's do a live stream a concert. Get some support that way. Let's just do anything. And everyone's like, calm down, calm down. It's too late to do any of that. Like, you can't go out to the station at 8 or 9 o'clock at night and just start yelling at people. They'll call the cops on you. B, we can't organize a concert in that length of time. Like, by the time we get everything set up, it would probably be the deadline, so we would be screwed. And it's like, hey, look, we know all of us wants to do something, but we just have to leave this up to the whims of fate, I guess. So basically, it becomes just hanging out in the director's office and just watching the page, see if it goes up. At some point, they're like, hey, we haven't ate anything since lunch. We should probably go get food. I think it's like midnight or 1 a.m. So they send the first years out to go get food. And Yoshiko's just kind of like, this is ridiculous. I can't. Why would they send us out here? We're the first years. That's not fair. But they also talk about how like they're very grateful to be in this group and to have the friends they've made in Aqua, and just like the friends in general they've made like in their years and stuff. So they're very grateful for this group, no matter what happens with the applicants. Around this time, where they have like about 4 hours left, they are sitting at about like 87 applicants. So they're 13 away, which seems doable. 13 applicants in 4 hours. Also, the weird thing is that I mentioned when we were watching this, like, who's signing up for the school at like the crack of dawn? Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't understand why.
It's weird. So basically, the time just keeps ticking down. And we get to the final hour where they're at 94. There are 6 applicants short. And there's an hour left, and the sun's starting to rise. So the second years, along with Kanan, are just like, they go outside for a bit and then start yelling into the sky. Like, hey, come to our school. It's real cool. You would really love it. It's a great school. Come to the school. And while they're doing that, Ruby, like, yells at them, like, hey, you guys should come back here now. Like, we're running out of time. So they get back to the school, or back to the director's office, and they are down to 2 applicants left. They're at 98. If they get 2 more, they pass. They save the school. And then it gets down to the final minutes, and basically they watch as that number of 98 applicants turns into basically a red bar of, like, canceled.
Page closed,
Page closed. It's 5 a.m. They did not reach their goal. They have failed to save the school.
By 2.
Which I feel like, I know we've kind of talked about this, like how like the first series does this, where it's like, oh, you know, this is a Tokyo school, and the group basically attempts to save the school essentially. But I feel like with the way this series has gone, and just like the trials and tribulations Aqua has gone through, it honestly makes more sense for them to fail here than it does for them to succeed. Because they're a group that I think that's more defined by like looking failures into the face in the face and finding ways to prevail. Because if you look at throughout the entire series, like, you know, the almost failure for their first performance, their first big live performance in front of an actual non-school crowd where they get 0 votes, failing at the Love Live regionals previously. Like, every step of the way, they have hit huge walls where it's like, this group could completely crumble right here and cease to exist. But every time they've basically found a way to come back. And I think if they would have been able to save the school, it would have felt uncharacteristic of this series, in particular, like the story they're telling. because I think like especially with the way this season has kind of gone so far, they haven't had that big like wall to run up against
Hmm.
quite literally. And they basically they passed the qualifiers, they passed regionals, they're on their way to nationals. Like momentum is on their side in a way that it has not been throughout this entire series. They need something else to run into, like one last like barrier to go through to basically to be able to propel them onwards to nationals and give them momentum, or not momentum, but like another reason to succeed, another reason to push past this huge failure. And
And my concern was for their morale.
yeah, exactly. Which you were like, how are they gonna go on? Like, what's their morale situation gonna be? And that's a great question. Like, how do you push past the idea of like you worked so hard of this idea of like we're gonna win Love Live, we're gonna save the school, and you make it to the nationals of Love Live, basically the finals, but you're unable to save the school. That's the biggest roadblock they have faced so far, to where they easily could have just like see this happen and be like, we're done. That's it. We tried, but we couldn't do
Well,
it.
and Chica kind of gets to that point
Mm-hmm.
at a certain point of this episode. She's pretty much there at like, all right, we're done.
Yeah. Before we get to that though, there's still some stuff that happens. Basically, we get like a big gathering of all the students together, and Mari and Daya basically announce the news. They're like, hey, school's shutting down, we are being merged with another school in somewhere, I forget where. And then basically afterwards they try to have practice, and everyone's just like, ugh, not really feeling this. And Chica's trying to be her upbeat self and trying to get everyone together, but then she starts like crying
Hmm.
without really noticing it, and everyone's just like, look, no, we are not doing this today. Like, let's all just take a day and figure out exactly what we're going to do. And she's just like, wait, no, we can do this, it'll be fine, we can practice, we got Love Live coming up. And just everyone's like, no, not gonna happen. Because like I think she also like she doesn't see them really being emotional, but one of them has to come up and be like, hey, look, we are all feeling the way you're feeling right now. Like, we are in no position to practice. We're in no position to think about Love Live and in general. Like, we need to figure out exactly what we're going to do as a group. So that's what happens. They basically all go off and do their own thing, and we get like individual shots of all of them while we get a song being played, which is Sora Mo Kokoro Mo Hareru Kara, which is a bonus song they included with the second Blu-ray release of season 1. So it's almost a weird song to put into season 2. Like, you don't really see like the bonus songs from the Blu-ray releases in the series, but yeah, that is like the montage song that plays. And basically you kind of see everyone trying to cope with what's happening in their own various different ways. Like, Mari's the one that takes it the hardest, cuz like,
Oh God, that was so hard to
yeah,
watch. Oh God, it hurts so much.
I mean, she's the director of the school, so like this is almost like a huge failure on her part, she feels, and all that. Like, Daya's like consoling her. It's rough.
Which, can we talk about how unreasonable her dad is that like he couldn't let two, like, come on. They almost had it.
They almost had it, but
He's super unreasonable.
well, I think as well though, like, he is basically being as reasonable as can be, but he also has like people higher up than him that are like being like, hey, you have to have this or it's done. Like, I don't think like he's necessarily like the highest point. He's one of them, but like I feel like there's other people above him that might be like breathing down his neck as well. But I could be wrong about that. It could be just me conjecturing, but I get what you're saying. Like, it is like two people. Like, you're getting 98 new students.
Well, and I feel like if he had like let it go for even like a little bit longer, then they would have had a lot more because they were doing really well with their video.
Mm-hmm.
So like to me it's almost like a dumb thing to do because they could have had a like a decent incoming class because of the success of this group, and they're just like, nah, we're not doing it. It's a waste of time. And I'm like, that's dumb. You're dumb.
You're dumb.
I mean, it's just such a waste of resources to be like, all right, we're gonna shut the school and merge it in, and that's it. And
Well, considering though at the very beginning they were just going to do that anyways.
yeah, so that's what it seems like to me is that it was never like even a chance for them to save the school per se. Like they never wanted them to save the school. It was gonna happen regardless.
And like the 100 students is kind of like they felt like would be an unrealistic goal, but
That's what it seems like to me. And then like even though it got to 98 and they're like, oh crap, it's not so unrealistic anymore. And they're like, but we gotta shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. We gotta do this anyway.
yeah.
Seems like some capitalist, you know?
Yeah. I can't
So
argue with that.
unreasonable.
After the night of everyone figuring out, trying to think of what to do, they meet up back on the roof, and the others have basically come to the conclusion that like, hey, we should continue this. Let's go win Love Live, and for the, I guess basically for the first time, it's like Chica being the one's like, no, I don't think we can do this. I think we're done. Like, how are we gonna go on when like we couldn't save the school? We're gonna we failed all of our friends. We failed all of our classmates. Like, how are we expected to go on and just like act like nothing's wrong? And she gets real emotional about this, but the rest of the student body is basically like in this little courtyard and are like, hey, why don't you just go and do it anyways? Like, do it all for us. Like, basically
save the school by putting the name on the map.
Exactly,
through winning.
It's
not like saving the school physically, it's saving them in memory.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's one of the things I really like about the end of this episode is that it's not necessarily like saying, hey, just because you didn't save the school, it means you're a failure. It's basically the rest of the student body being like, all right, if no matter what, you guys are going to etch our name into history. No one will forget our school. Because if you win Love Live, that will be the school name attached to Aqua forever. Everyone will have to remember our school. And I feel like in a way that like that becomes more of like a rallying cry for just everyone involved with that school of like, it's like, oh, you want everyone to basically forget we existed? Like, you.
Mm-hmm.
People will know we existed. And it's like one of the things I really just super, super enjoy about the end of this episode is just like the entire like student body coming together and just basically being like, this. People will remember us.
And you know, it's interesting to me because like I think about my high school and I'm like, would I do any of this for my high school? No. I didn't care that much about my high school.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't care that much about my high school.
Right.
I would have let that thing shut down. That's fine.
I think though as well though, the way like how small the school is, like, and how tight knit it is. That's
yeah. I mean, they have like already under like 100 students. Probably. I said, I don't remember if it was this episode or the episode before. I was like, there's essentially like 60 students.
Yeah, like when they have that assembly of like where they're like, hey, the school is going to shut down and merge with another. Like, there's not many people. Like that gym is not filled at all.
It's like not even like a quarter filled.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's the big thing that helps us is that it's such a small school that everyone knows each other, that they can band together in this sort of way. And then that's basically the rallying cry that Chica needed, to where she is able to understand, like, all right, well, it's not just about us anymore. It's about them as well. And we're going to go out there and we're going to win Love Live for not only us, but for them, for everyone else who, like, ever went to the school. We'll make sure the school is never forgotten about. And it's real good and it's real emotional. Love Live Sunshine, totally a show that does not make you emotional.
Oh God, watching Mari, I couldn't even handle it.
So that's basically this episode then.
We lost the school.
We lost the school.
Rip
the school. Very briefly, some notes. The end character in the credits this time was Kanon, and then an animation error at 18 minutes 19 seconds that Mari's eyes are colored green for some reason.
Huh.
She had magical stickers on her eyes again, apparently.
Wonder why they picked Kanon.
I don't know. That's a good question. But next time, it'll be season 2, episode 8. We will be talking about, and it's time to go on a little trip to Hokkaido for the Hokkaido Love Live regionals, where they're not performing, but our good friends the Saint Snow are.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that next time with the episode entitled Hakodate. But if you'd like more from us, go to seasonallycheckup.com or sc.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like the Season Anime Checkup and Season Anime Checkup OVA. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you want more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She has columns and reviews. And you can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/animecheckup. It's Twitter. So next time, it's time for some Hakodate and Saint Snow development?
Yes.